A new book makes the case for working in the office and provides a primer for businesses in the new world of hybrid work. Joining us right now is Peter Cappelli. He is UPenn's Wharton School Professor of Management, also Director of their Center for Human Resources. His new book out this week is called In Praise of the Office, The Limits to Hybrid and Remote Work. And Peter, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
This is a topic we've kind of gone round and round with over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And I will admit that I can fall down on either side of this argument, so I may play devil's advocate against you on some of these. But explain what we are missing in this hybrid world of work.
Well, I think the big thing is that we were ignoring how work actually gets done in offices and how much relies on knowing somebody, knowing what this person does, being able to go around the corner and get an answer to your question. If we have a conflict and it's going on email, it gets uglier and uglier and uglier. But if I just go around the corner and see you, we tend to pull our punches. Things get solved quicker.
You haven't sat on this set very often, have you?
Right. I think the big thing that's most obvious is we're constantly hiring new people, right? So job tenure in the U.S. is only about 4 years. And if you're new into an organization, you're trying to figure out what's going on. You got to look around.
I think that's the biggest problem. This was one thing, you could do it temporarily if you were somebody who had been in an organization for a long time and you knew everybody. But if you are new and getting hired, especially if you're young and new and hired and you don't have contacts outside of your office, how are you ever supposed to learn this?
Yeah, and organization culture, you learn that by observing. It's not a memo that comes out to you and says, here's how we do things, right? So I think that's the big problem. And, people like me, I've actually been there 40 years at the Wharton School. So, I know where all the bodies are buried. I know how things are done. New people coming in, of course, are lost. But I say, look, I could do my job without being in the office. That's true. But the new people coming in don't learn from me.
I understand that argument, and it makes a lot of sense. But as somebody who is an employee who's been there for a long time, why is it my job to train the new people? And are you paying me enough to do
Well, that is a great point, right? Because one of the things that happened with remote work is that in order to manage people who weren't here, we got much more focused on what are your KPIs, what are you supposed to be doing? And if you look at job descriptions, helping out the new lost kid is never in the job description, right? Solving a problem for somebody on the other side of the building is never in the job description. So people are doing what is in their job description when they're home, and things like helping other people fall to the wayside, right?
Yeah, I think one of the big problems, too, is the inequity of it. If you have people who had to come in every day during the pandemic, like we did in the control rooms here and in other places, there are a lot of places where people had to come in every day, but not everybody did. Even the HR people who are telling you you should now come back, maybe they were sitting at home, and maybe still are several days a week. Why should you listen to them?
No, I think that's right. That if you're going to manage people who have to be in the office, you probably have to be in the office as well, right? And I think that has been unfair. We haven't thought very much about it. I'd say that's the big question. Why is this an issue now? Is because we're discovering some of these things. So here are two of them, two facts, which are surprising to lots of people. Most offices shrunk down their physical footprint.
So they figured that was an advantage, an efficiency that they could deal with.
It's cheaper, right? We cut real estate, right? So when they say come back to your office is gone. You don't have an office anymore.
You don't have an office, you don't have a desk.
You don't have a desk.
You're supposed to be.
And we've moved toward open office plans, which people hate. So we don't want to come back because it's worse. The other fact is that on these hybrid days, anchor days, you're supposed to be in 2 days a week, nobody was showing up. And the reason is, this is all on the employer side, is that about a third of employers never had explicit rules, and then when they had them, they never enforced them, right? So then I don't come in because when I do come in, I look around, nobody's here, why should I come in?
You find that same thing. It's like a waste of time.
Right, so 40% of U.S. employees say they coffee badge, which means you come in, you swipe your badge, you get a cup of coffee, you go home. I have to come in 2 days a week. I'm in, but I leave, right? So we haven't enforced it.
But that's a cultural problem.
But also you change the culture when you don't enforce things, right? So I look to understand culture about who gets rewarded for what, and if you tell me come in but you never check, and I come in and nobody's there, then
you come in and the bosses aren't there.
Changes the culture.
Is there any way to make a hybrid situation work in your mind? I mean,
absolutely.
Your friend Adam Grant, I assume, is on the opposite end of you. He believes that remote work actually can work.
Yeah, well, sure. No, we believe it too. Hybrid work, but on the management side, you have to take it seriously, right? So when new people are hired, you really have to spend some time structurally helping them learn and meet other people in the organization, which we tend not to do. When people are in the office, you have to make sure that they're there for a reason. Our meetings have to be in place. We waste an enormous amount of time with remote meetings now.
In-place meetings are often a waste of time, too.
Well, I'm also a waste of time. But if we think they're a waste of time, you see remote meetings where the norm is cameras off.
Right.
And one of the things that I was discovering, and people aren't even showing up when they log in, they have their agent show up just to take the notes for the meeting. So you have these big meetings, nobody's paying attention, nobody's there.
Talking.
And some of them not even talking, right? And so then you have to have another meeting after that because nobody knows what actually happened in the first meeting.
That's my biggest problem with it, is it penalizes the people who are following the rules and doing what they're supposed to be doing. Because their meeting time is going to be extended threefold to try and catch up all the people who weren't paying attention.
And that's all on the employer. So I think, you could make this work for sure. You could make hybrid work if you wanted. But you'd have to rebuild those relationships somehow. So when people are in, you have to create a context where they're going to meet each other purposefully. It was happening randomly, right? When you went into an office full-time, you did meet people. You did learn who they are. You did acquire friends.
I will also say, though, over 30 years, the commutes into the cities have gotten worse and worse.
Yeah,
and
probably.
If you have a family and you're trying to buy a house, you may have to live 2 hours outside of a major metropolitan area at this point. If you are not somebody who's at the top rungs of an organization. These are decisions that are being made by people who make a lot of money, don't have the same hassles that are there. Why don't they open some offices that are further out into the suburbs to help some of those people?
Well, it's interesting you say that because the very beginning of remote work started exactly there in the 1970s, where NASA engineer cooked up the phrase telecommuting, and that was exactly the idea. Couldn't you have remote offices?
But isn't the whole remote office thing create the same problem? I don't really understand. I know everyone
it's
talks
like bureaus in a news organization.
Yeah, no, but it does. But that's part of the issue, which is that unless you actually have a density of people, and that they all actually work together on the same project, that's the other thing. So it's one thing to have offices all over the place.
Well, then pay them more so they can afford to live.
But if the projects are it doesn't matter. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to offices going, why am I even here? Because the actual group or the way it's set up is actually spread out and somewhat distributed already.
No, that's right. And so one of the things you want to do if you're an employer is you got to make time for them to physically be together. That doesn't mean they have to sit next to each other 40 hours a week. As we know, a lot of what we're doing when we're 40 hours a week sitting next to each other is not all that productive in terms of interaction. But you have to make it productive.
What about these companies that are now saying, okay, you have to be in the office 5 days a week because they're intentionally looking to lay off some folks, get rid of some people? Is this like the new form of layoffs? I'm just going to make you so uncomfortable that you quit?
That would be terrible, right? I think it's kind of a myth, this myth that says this many percentage of employees say they'll quit if they have to come into the office. Employees say that about everything. I'm going to quit if I don't get this. I don't quit if I don't get that. I
will say, as a working woman and a mom, it's hard to be able to handle those same responsibilities when you're also handling the bulk of the parenting.
That's absolutely true.
So do we want to lose that entire portion of the workforce? And by the way, it's a lot of dads who are doing that now, too.
But back to the quitting, they don't quit. So the evidence is about 8% of people who say they're going to quit if I don't get X or Y actually quit. Because
only 8%?
8%. Because you think about it, I'm going to quit if you make me come back to the office and do what, right? So I need another job. So I need to find another job that will let me work remotely.
So tough markets means the leverage slides to leverage slides to the employer.
So I think, back to the hybrid idea, most of the book is about how to do this if you're going to be hybrid, right? So you could do it. The problem is on the employer's side. They really have to take this seriously. They have to enforce some simple rules. Like we have anchor days. I'm sorry, you have to come in. And one of the problems is they push the decisions down to the supervisory level. No supervisor wants to be the bad cop, right? Particularly when over there, they're not making you come in, but over here we are. Why is that fair? So you have to make people come in. You have to have meetings with cameras on if you're going to do it. You have to have project teams where people do come together, and you have to have budget for that and time for that. You probably have to rethink this open office thing, because I come in on a hybrid day to be with my peers, but it's random where you're going to sit, right? And You have to hunt around to find a desk sometimes, and then you've got to find your peers. You don't know where they sit because it's all random now. Right. So you got to do something to make this happen. We've made it harder, right?
But the flip side of that is, I think prior to the pandemic, a lot of offices moved to this sort of very open office situation.
Which everybody hated.
Which everybody hated, and most people think is completely unproductive.
Yeah.
So here we have offices that are completely unproductive environments, and you're saying, please, you must come to this completely unproductive place where a lot of these employees think, you know what, I can be a lot more productive personally at the office. And so there's a lot of, I don't know if it's hypocrisy or these sort of cross currents that don't seem to make a lot of sense.
Completely with you. By the way, my colleague, co-author Rania Nemi on this, I mean, that is our view too, is that why is it hard to get people to come back to the office? Because the office stinks now. It's way worse than it was before. Yeah. So you better rethink that, right? Because not only do they not want to come because they know it's not going to be useful for them, but in terms of the benefits you think you're going to get from social interaction, it doesn't happen, right? So there's no free lunch in this, right? You can't save money on real estate. Would help. Sorry, what?
Maybe free lunch would help.
Really, absolutely. It would help. Why not? Right?
Well, a lot of people are still doing free lunch, though.
Yeah.
There aren't any free lunches.
That's what he said, but I think free lunches might help this.
No.
Peter Cappelli,
we're all fat anyway. Speak for yourself.
No free breakfast in here.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. The book, by the way, is called In Praise of the Office.